It's digital trade show time. Let's go. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode here on the Digital Trade Show. Thanks for tuning in. And if you haven't had an opportunity to subscribe, I'd love to have you subscribe to the show on YouTube and any and all of the social channels, as well as on iTunes and Spotify. But it's 2024, and as promised, I want to continue to have conversations this year with people that are doing amazing things in the digital space. And so as we all are, having digital be a big part of our lives, the human aspect of this show is to continue to move forward in this space. But I think more importantly, highlight a lot of the work that people are doing in order for us to move forward in the digital space. So listen, I'm very excited for our guest today. I was just telling Paul, I have known of him for a while. I know people from his team. I have watched from afar SurfCT grow over the years in dentistry. And so it's an absolute pleasure to have Paul Vigario with me, who is the CEO and founder of SurfCT. Paul, how you doing?
I'm doing well, John. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Well, first off, thanks for coming on, and a lot of things that, I'd love to go over today. Before we get started, love to have you share just a little bit about what your journey has been like in dentistry. I know that at least the last number that I had seen, I think, 12,000-ish practices you and your team have been able to help connect. I know we're going to talk a lot about connection today and automation and what have you. But yeah, before we jump in, just maybe a little bit about kind of your story.
Sure. So I was taking my degree in information systems with a concentration in healthcare at the University of Connecticut in 2000 and 2001. The idea for SurfCT came up at the university. So it was actually a college project. You fast forward over 20 years later, and we've worked with over 12,000 practices. And it really is amazing what happens when you're university founded, you have engineers on board, you understand how design, technology, the treatment philosophy all connects to a brand and to systems. And with that, 2 decades of experience and the team that we have, it's really amazing what we've been able to accomplish.
So the message as we get started for anybody that is watching, that is in school and you're creating a college project, this is a success story, right? Of you're there with your friends, you're creating a project and it's come to life, which is awesome. I wanted to go along the lines of, you mentioned, technology and design, why they're so important to be connected, and obviously in the dental practice. Paul, when I think about technology and design, the first thing that comes to my mind is a brand like Apple. I know you mentioned brand and how important that is and what you've been able to do at SurfCT, but I think about the devices that I use on a daily basis, and it's not so much just the functionality that I enjoy. It is the actual design. It makes working more pleasurable. At least that's kind of the way that I have felt when I tie those two together. So, when you think about that, talk about, I think, why that's been so important to you to connect technology and design.
Well, yeah, absolutely. So technology is really about the outcome that we want. It's not necessarily about just adding another gadget to the practice. And the industry is big on adding gadgets and selling doctors, the next the next thing, right? But in terms of design changes the feel. It changes the person's ability to interact. And so as the technology's evolved, and now we're in 2024, it really is true that technology inspires design and design inspires technology. So what's really interesting to me is that most offices today still have the similar layout of an office from 30 years ago, but yet the technology is so different and what's possible is so different. So when you really start to understand how design and technology come together, it's amazing what can happen. I'll give you an example, a real world example. As kids, our parents used to drive by a toll, or even when I was in college, you drive by a toll and you'd have to stop and you'd have to throw a quarter in the basket, or you'd have to pay somebody. And that person, a lot of times they were, a little grumpy, right? They're in there just collecting $1 for everybody that goes through the toll. But today we drive by, we drive right through at, 70 miles an hour, and your Easy Pass picks it up. That is a perfect example of how technology has inspired that design and got rid of that toll gate. So in today's world, I don't even think dental practices need like a full-fledged front desk. I just think it's that toll gate from the 90s that's not required. And what happens when you free that up? What happens when you open that space up? What happens when you turn your waiting room into a lounge and you don't have HR of 3 or 4 people sitting up there taking phone calls, talking to the insurance company, trying to juggle between patients coming in, patient questions? What happens when you remove that chaos and you create a different experience? So the design and technology really come together because technology is inspiring the design, and the design is inspiring technology, and that's actually Pixar's slogan. That's actually their model. And Pixar came out of nowhere and became the number one, production studio in Hollywood. So I think the two go hand in hand. And when you think of them working together, you can create really tremendous automation.
Yeah, I love that. The first visual that I had of driving through that toll booth without having to put the quarter in there is then getting the bill maybe like a month later if I didn't have the Easy Pass because it was so convenient to your point. But yeah, such a great way to think about it, right? As we evolved. And the next thing I wanted to ask you was along the lines of like some of the challenges that you foresee, in dentistry and healthcare in general, as we move forward. Like a lot of people that I've spoke with lately, Paul, I feel like in the last couple of years in a dental practice, the expectations that we all have as consumers, slash patients, on how we experience a business outside of a dental practice, right? It's really changed. Like we go places now, and for companies like you mentioned that have integrated that automation, that technology, that experience, I feel like in a lot of cases that expectation is now moving over to the dental practice. So I think that's what's so exciting about what you're doing, because I feel like that's where the trend is going on the patient consumer side. Can you talk about some of the challenges that you see in healthcare and in dentistry moving forward, and maybe how, you know, we can utilize this concept of technology and design to help solve those issues?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So even what you said about the bill, right? Like you didn't have the Easy Pass and you got the bill after. I just went to a restaurant in LA and we ordered breakfast, my family and we took care of the bill before we even sat down. And then when you sit down, the breakfast comes, the service is there, everything worked out great. When you're done, you're done. There is no bill. And it made me smile because it just feels different. It doesn't feel like you ate and now you have to ask for the bill, and you're creating again all that work at the end. They captured it at the front. So even in today's world, why have a dental practice where there is a bill? Why have an accounts receivable? Why not just handle that on the front end so that you're having a great experience? And some of the challenges for doctors are going to be getting this knowledge and connecting with the right team and the right people that want to deliver this level of knowledge and this level of experience for practices and for doctors to succeed and patients to succeed. This is a big industry. People don't realize. I'll often ask a dentist how big they think the industry is, and they'll like kind of smirk and they don't really know the answer. But it's nearing a $200 billion industry, and that's bigger than the NFL, the NBA, and Major League Baseball combined. Because not everybody's a sports fan, but everybody has a dentist. So the industry has a lot of reason to keep things status quo, but the world is changing. The way consumers, the way patients interact with businesses is changing. And when we work with clients, it's extraordinary, absolutely extraordinary what happens to them and to their practice and to their lives and to the communities that they serve and to the patients. It's really extraordinary. So really just reimagining what's possible in a practice, in a private practice, in a dental practice, and creating the outcomes that we want through design and technology is profound for the practice owner and the communities that they serve.
So clear space, clear mind. Often when I watch some of the work that you and your team do on social media or the videos on the website or the work that SurfCT does in a dental practice, it helps me like take a deep breath, Paul, if I'm being quite honest, right? Because I look at that work and to your point, right? It's like clean space, clear mind. Can you touch on like the transformation that has helped the dentist and the practice that you've worked with, right? Like there's that anticipation. I think we all want to work in a space where it's organized and it's clean, but it's a heck of a lot easier said than done, right? And so you have to make that decision, as you said, to want that transformation as a dentist. Can you talk about that? Like what is that experience like when you talk to your customers, like post working together with you and in helping them create that magical space?
Sure. So we always start with the layout. Like they'll provide a layout that so often they'll get made for them by one of the big houses, right? Whether that be Shine or Banco or Patterson. So they'll provide that layout and we'll look at that and we'll really turn that layout upside down, right? We'll eliminate a waiting room. We'll create a lounge. We'll eliminate all that front desk chaos. The front desk is like a survival zone. I always tell doctors, go hang out at your front desk for more than 20 minutes. Tell me how you feel. And they can't do it. They can't do it. They're like, I was up there for 5 minutes and I had to go. So we eliminate all that. We open that space up. Like you said, clear space, clear mind. And we start to get the doctor's vision. We'll ask them what their vision is, ultimately what they want in their life. And so many of them want different things. Some of them want to be chairside. Some of them want to get away from the chair. Some of them want more time with their family. We start with the doctor's vision. We then look at that design. We open that up to support the vision. We look at the technology. We connect the technology to the design to support the vision. We then look at the treatment philosophies and make sure those treatment philosophies are in line with the doctor's vision. And ultimately, we create a brand, right? So we're creating a brand and we're creating systems to power that brand. What I love most is going to a doctor's open house or connecting with them a few months later or even a year later, and just seeing the smile on their face and just hearing that they've taken off more time than they usually do and that the practice is thriving. I was with a young endodontist who I started working with when he was 30 years old, and he's 32 now, and we were in LA and we were having breakfast, and he's from New York, and he was out there with his family for 10 days, and he goes, Paul, I've never been able to stay away from the practice this long and have it thrive this much. Every month I have like a special trip planned with my family. He just had a baby, and like those types of outcomes, to hear that you could have a practice that works for you versus work in a practice. In short, most of these layouts are built for doctors. Most of these startups and these practice layouts are designed for doctors to work in, and we're really changing this and creating practices that actually work for the doctor, for the owner. So that is probably the most rewarding thing about what we do.
And I know, for people that know you, that hang around you, that spend time with you, there's a lot of outside of the box thinking. So when you say that, right, that means a lot of things. It can be a very general statement based on the industry that you're in or the work that you do. But when you say outside of the box, define that.
Yeah. So it's really coming at it from a fresh and an open perspective. Doctors will often ask other doctors, well, how did you accomplish this or how did you accomplish that? And what you end up doing is you get a lot of copy paste stuff. Most practices look the same. Most practices have the same layout. Most practices are increasing the stock of the industry versus your own stock. I mean, look no further than a dentist who's practiced for 20 or 30 years and just ask yourself, has their stock really gone up or has the industry stock gone up? But when we think outside the box, we start to ask ourselves, what is the ultimate purpose of this practice? What is it that the doctor wants to achieve? What does success look like? Not just on the day of startup, not just at year one, but for a lifetime. What's that success look like? And approaching building a practice through a different lens, understanding that things shouldn't be in separate pillars, but they should be all connected. Our slogan is everything is connected, and connecting the vision, the design, the technology, the treatment philosophy with a brand that people want. right? In a digital world where they can identify that brand and they can say, I want to go here, is absolutely game changing. And it's outside the box. And I'll give you one more example. Our parents and grandparents have been buying coffee forever. And you know, you can get coffee at a gas station free with a fill up. But if you told your grandparents that you're paying 5, 6, 7 bucks for a cup of coffee, they'd probably think you're nuts. But today we all do it. We go to Starbucks and we order a cup of coffee for 5, 6, 7 bucks. Sometimes we get that cup of coffee delivered to our home through Uber Eats or DoorDash, or you could even order on the app and it's ready when you arrive. So the fact that we can get a commodity like coffee for 300, 400, 500% more, love that experience, want to do it almost daily, and the fact that we're not, you know, dental practices aren't being thought of that way, is an opportunity lost, an opportunity lost. So we really think outside the box and create different experiences. And again, having worked with over 12,000 practices, we've seen how this works. One of our clients is Dr. Michael Appa, and he's got a practice in New York City, Dubai, LA, and Miami's coming online right now in February 2024. And that's, you know, I mean, talk about an outside the box experience. His revenue's through the roof. His patients are super happy. He does high end aesthetics. He has a beautiful life, amazing life, and that was all his vision. And we worked together to bring that to life. That's outside the box.
All right. So speaking about, transforming the life of a practice owner, when you look at, and you, like you said, like you've got a really, really big subset now of these 12,000 practices, but I'm just curious, like what percentage of the doctors that you work with, uh, already have an appreciation for design and technology. And so it's just a matter of like having you and your team, like help them make that a reality, versus what percentage of doctors it's not their thing, meaning like they come to you because they've always wanted to do it. They didn't really know and understand how valuable this could be. And could you break that down a little bit?
Sure. Most doctors that follow us on Instagram or have heard about us, are intrigued, right? They don't know exactly what it is that we do, but they're intrigued. Doctors that have worked in practices that we've connected, they'll work there as an associate, and they feel different. They report back like, I feel different. And when it comes time to develop their own practice, they'll often reach out to us. So that's a very high percentage. Once a doctor experiences what we've done, that's a very high percentage. But most doctors don't really know, and they'll reach out to us to just ask, like, what do you guys do? How can you guys help? And when they start to see what we do in terms of their layout, and they start to understand the concepts of automation, and we just pose a question like, what if you didn't have this monstrosity of a front desk? And what if all this space when you walked in was different? And what if your clinical space was more open and more airy? And what if when patients came to you, they already knew what they wanted, right? When you go into a Starbucks, you know what you want. If your spouse in the morning says, honey, get me a caramel frappuccino, you can't decide to go to the gas station and get a 99-cent cup of coffee. You're gonna have a crappy Sunday. So when they start to realize what we do, it's mind blowing. But it's still a small percentage. It's a small percentage, but it's a growing percentage because young doctors have more information than ever at their fingertips, and they're starting to realize that the way practices have traditionally been put together is not in their best interest coming into 2024 and coming into 2030. We always say we're working with a 2030 vision because the world's changing. It's changing really fast. And even the way we're connecting, John, you know, we're connecting here virtually, and thousands of people are going to watch this. And we encourage them to go onto our Instagram at SurfCT.com, check us out, ask questions, because generally it's a small percentage, but those that do end up becoming the top 5 to 10% of doctors that are absolutely thriving in ways that they never even imagined possible.
So you mentioned a little bit earlier, there are a lot of pain points in the dental practice. I mean, we could talk about this for days, right? I mean, there's endless podcasts on just insurance. We're not going there today, right? We're talking about design and technology and the great work you guys are doing. But the point is, there's a lot of pain points in the dental practice. When you look at the work that you do, the service that you provide, like how you're helping these practice owners, is there one or two pain points, Paul, that you feel like you are helping the majority of them with, right? Now that you've had a chance to really look at this work and how it is transforming like their practice and their lives, what are the one or two pain points that you're really solving for them?
Sure. One of them is they're working with an architect, they're working with a builder, they're working with an IT company, they're working with a marketing company, and everything is in a separate silo. Everything is siloed. So at the end of the day, the left hand doesn't talk to the right hand, and they're going to end up with all these bills. They're going to pay all this money, but all of these pieces are not interconnected. So that's one thing. Everything is separate. The vision isn't connected to the messaging. You don't end up with a brand that people want. You end up with again a practice to work inside, and some form of website and advertisement. So we interconnect all these pieces, and that automatically solves a big problem for them because they don't have all of these balls in the air that aren't in communication with each other. That automatically rolls into opening day and how the practice functions. Once you've got the practice working all together, you create this domino effect where when one domino hits, they all go down in an automated fashion. So why is that important? Because you're not left inside a box waiting for a patient to come through that door and you've got to make it all work. You have a practice that actually works for you. So that interconnectivity between all of the pieces and the branding, again, very much like a Starbucks. If you see the way a Starbucks works, you've got the app, you've got the ability to get it delivered, you've got a desire. We've created desire. People want that. People want to give it. Would you like a cup of Starbucks? It's affordable luxury. It's a break in the day. It's not a cup of coffee. People think Starbucks is a cup of coffee, but it's a break in the day. It's affordable luxury. It's a desire that people have. So the two things to answer your question are the ability to not end up with all these silos and as a doctor have all these separate things in the air where you're constantly the go-to person. I'll see things on Instagram or doctors saying, I've answered, I'm in startup mode and I've answered 100 questions today. Well, how many practices have you built? Are you really qualified to answer those 100 questions? Do you really have that experience? And then once that practice opens up, the second thing is the practice works for you. It starts to work for you. And if you don't have that first piece all connected, you end up with that box. And when the practice opens up, you've got a fresh box to work in. But you have to work for that practice. As a doctor, you have to show up every day and work really hard to pay those bills to all those people that you paid. And you don't have that interconnection. So one, the interconnectivity that ultimately creates automation, that creates a business that really works for you, a practice that really works for you. And that's why a lot of doctors that don't have that, they look so forward to, starting their practice, and they look forward to selling their practice 30, 40 years later. It's like a boat, right? Your happiest days are the days that you purchased it and the days that you sold it. But if you can really get the practice to work for you, why would you want to sell it? Why would you want to sell a business that is working for you? So those are the two things that we solve. It's that interconnectivity that ultimately creates automation for the practice and really creates a brand that patients want, and a business and a practice that works for the doctor, not for the doctor to work in.
Yeah, I love that. So I'm always curious, Paul, of how entrepreneurs come up with the names of their companies. And so like, as you were talking about that, like I was somewhat making some correlation of like everything being connected and what you're trying to accomplish in order to help these practices, but I don't want to assume. So I'd love to just share with them, where did the name SurfCT come from?
And so it was our college project name. So that was our
There it
we were the
is.
SurfCT team. We were the SurfCT team, and it was three questions. Could a doctor in private practice benefit from having a full-fledged IT department? A full-fledged department. Yes. Question number two, was it feasible for one doctor to have a full practice, like a full-fledged IT department? No. But I basically wrote a paper that said, hey, it's a great idea. I don't like when money gets in the way of great ideas. So here's how you do it. And I went to go work at the local hospital and learned how to make that happen, how to make a break even, cost analysis and build a team that can support private practices. And the name of the team was SurfCT. And we got a grant. We got a grant. And nobody in the team wanted to carry it forward, so I did. So that's a fun story all in and of itself. But that's where the name came from. It was the name of our it was the name of our team at the University of Connecticut.
Yeah, I love that. All right. So speaking of teams, the other thing I wanted to ask you is I'm sure for everybody watching, they're painting this picture of what it means like to connect everything in the practice to create this design. You even spoke of, the front desk not being a part of the flow. Can you talk a little bit about uh, the practice owner and their teams when they set things up in this direction, right? I mean, as you know so well, like a dental team is very, very important, but I feel like, and I'm excited for you to share that this new vision, this new future of where dental practice is going to also change a little bit of like how the team is involved in that. So could you touch on that just a little bit?
Yeah, yeah. So if you build the practice to work for itself, if you think outside the box, if you create that level of automation, you're going to create a lot more success for the practice, for your patients, and for your team. It's a lot easier to be a barista in a Starbucks than it is to be a coffee maker in a regular coffee shop, and especially when patients want to walk through the door, especially with that desire and that level of energy. And we're also eliminating these areas of chaos and these areas of survivability, right? So instead of putting your team in flight or fight mode or in survivability mode, put your team in a mode to thrive, empower your team. So even during COVID and during those difficult and weird times, doctors were losing team members, but our clients just weren't. They were just, hey, we're not having those problems because the team was empowered, and it's a lot easier to thrive and operate that way. And a practice that's growing also has more resources for these team members. Sometimes I'll hear doctors say, hey, I can't keep someone at my front desk, or I can't keep an assistant, or I can't. And you start to have to ask yourself, is it really that you can't keep that, or is it that the practice isn't designed to keep them? You can't, you don't want to put people in a survivability mode. You want to put people in a mode that is empowering and helps the practice grow. So when you have this level of automation, when you have a practice that people want to be a part of, when you have a brand that people want, you end up attracting better team members, better teammates, and they end up thriving and helping you grow within your practice. It's like you said a little earlier. When you see our stuff on Instagram, it opens you up. You feel good. You feel you open mind, open space, and that energy carries over day to day within the team, within the organization, and creates growth. And it's exciting to be part of something that's growing versus something that you have to go in and fight through every day and try to survive every day. So our practices tend to empower the team and help doctors not just retain team, but attract the right people to help them grow.
So let's talk. Speaking of teams, let's talk a little bit about your team, right? So I think we have established that this business that has been built, that is helping these tens of thousands of dental practices, was a college project. So we've established that. We've got an entrepreneur here, in the sense of Paul, with vision and all of that. But yeah, like let's talk about your team and how you have been able to grow and build this brand, but do it again. And I'll use the same example, Paul. Like I mean, everybody knows that I'm a big fan of the digital footprint and what people are doing on social media, because I think it's a way for us now. It's such a great way for us to learn about a culture, about a company, what they're doing. And you guys have done a really good job of doing that. So I've got to learn a little bit about your team and who they are without even meeting some of them in person. But what has that been like for you, to have them by your side and to help them, help you grow this vision?
It's been tremendous. It's been tremendous. It's been really very fulfilling just to have our team members, start somewhere, and so many of the original cast members that started with me at the university are still with us, which 22 years later is a sign. It's a it's it's an honor to work with them, and it's quite special. But being able to have our team members thrive and accomplish things that they never thought they could, or they never like understood was absolutely possible for them is tremendous. Today we've moved our fleet of vehicles over to EVs, so our team members drive Teslas. We got all brand new Teslas last year, 2023 Teslas, and that's been a lot of fun. Our team members can work from anywhere in the world. We have a we have a no restriction policy. So sometimes our support team members are working from New York. Sometimes they're working from LA. We have one who has a family in the Caribbean, and we don't ask questions. Like I'll wake up and see that he's taking calls from the Caribbeans. It's totally fine. It's just we have a very different way of looking at it. We talk about being outside the box. We encourage our team members not only to think outside the box, but to live outside the box. When I started the business, we had cubicles. We no longer have cubicles. You can work from anywhere in the world, and it's really fun to grow the team the way we're doing it, in a very non-ordinary way, but in an extraordinary way.
Yeah, it's, when I just think about what this digital world has done for all of us, right? It's easy, as you know, Paul, to get caught up in some of the challenges with it. But then just hearing you share that, like, I think, there's never been a better time, as you can show the way that you guys operate, right? The service that you offer dental practices is the way that you all are working and living on a daily basis. And I feel like even in the digital space, like that is bringing consumers and customers closer to brands, right? Because it's kind of like, whereas in the past, they felt like they had to go through a lot of different layers to meet people, and now they can really speed up that process. And in the case of the work that you're doing, if it is going to help them transform their practice, helping them do that faster, right? So it's just like there's so many positives with it. And so it's just really, really, really neat to see. And especially for those of you watching, the whole Tesla thing, it's pretty slick. I love it.
Yeah, I'll give you an interesting thing. You're kind of bringing it up to mind. It's kind of reminding me sometimes when I'll meet with a client, and again over the course of 20 years, and 10 years ago, 5 years ago, even now, it's pretty common. People will say, I have this one team member, and he or she is always playing on their phone, and we've created this policy where we lock phones up, and I'll say no. I'll say, what are you talking about? That's an amazing skill. It's like, I don't pay them to play on their phone. I'm like, let's just think about this for 1 second. If we reimagine how this practice operates, and we let this one person play on their phone, and they post for you, and they can get a picture with 10 patients a day, right? 10 patients a day. They do 10 posts, whether it's on their Instagram, your Instagram, the patient's Instagram. Each post gets about 500 views. So that's 5,000 views on your brand. And if you've got it set up right, you've got your brand right here, right behind us, right? 5,000 views, you're open 300 days a week. That's 1.5 million views in your community. Well, my community only has 50,000 people. Great, because they're going to see it 10 times. They're going to see it so many times. And then your conversion rate is 1%. It's 1%. Those are the numbers. And people say, that sounds so low. Well, at 1.5 million views, that's 1,500 new patients a year. That's 1,500. So this person that you see, it's not the problem. It's the way we're looking at it. This person isn't the problem playing on their phone. It's let's empower them. Let's take their zone of genius and not make them bad for it, but put them in a place where they can really be genius and help the practice grow. And the Teslas are a sign of that too. We want to be forward thinking. And if you look at the Tesla, it's a perfect example of how design and technology comes together,
Yeah.
because the design of the car is tied to the technology. It's interconnected, and that's how the car can drive itself. And I've had other cars that are a lot more expensive, and they're built a certain way, and then the technology is an afterthought. And for example, a G-Wagon, right? It's built like a tank, and then the technology is an afterthought, right?
Yeah.
Expensive car, but at the end of the day, you've got to drive it. You've got to do all the work. And if you've ever driven one of those things for a little while, they're actually quite tiresome to drive. Whereas you can get in a Tesla, tell it where you want it to go, and it'll do the majority of the work for you. So
Yeah. And if you're someone out there watching in a dental practice and you heard what Paul just shared and you are on your phone and you can bring all that business to your practice, we're going to send you a I told you so t-shirt, right? That you can wear in your dental practice to let your team know that next time you get frustrated that I'm on my phone. It's such a great point, right? And I hope, as we kind of wrap this up, like I hope that we're moving in that direction, Paul. I really, really do, because I've been one of those individuals. Like I've always believed that there's so much good in social media and a lot of the things that you're talking about in this technology, if we just reframe the way that we look at it, right? Like it didn't happen by happenstance. And as you know, technology and innovation are undefeated, right? So like none of us have ever been able to defeat it. It's going to continue to move in that direction. So it's so much better when you embrace it, like anything else. I wanted to ask you just a little bit about entrepreneurship, right? Because I think in a lot of ways, dentists over the years haven't always looked at themselves as an entrepreneur, right? Our view of the entrepreneur, especially in the last 10 to 15 years, has been someone starting a tech company in Silicon Valley and all of that. But as you know so well, Paul, it's when I think about a dentist deciding to hang a shingle, open up their own practice. You talked about the gentleman that has 4 practices all over the world. Like they are doing entrepreneurial things. They're entrepreneurs. So what would you say, from your experience as an entrepreneur to the dentist out there, a lot of the younger dentists that want to grow in this field, about the lessons that you've learned of entrepreneurship?
it's hard. Entrepreneurship is hard. You gotta be able to take the punches and keep on rolling. One of the lessons I've learned is to associate yourself with people that have the experience, that have been there, that have done it. And if you're working with a team and they don't have that track record, what makes you think they can do it for you? So being an entrepreneur can be difficult. And one of the lessons I would pay forward or share with the audience listening is to find a team that understands your vision. Find a team that has been there. Find a team that has that experience, and learn and become a part of that team. Ask questions. I have never had a situation where I've asked another entrepreneur for help with something and they haven't helped in some way. And just asking for help and saying, hey, this is my idea. This is what I was thinking. Because these young dentists are at these universities, and sometimes they're asking people that have been in academia for a long time or haven't themselves accomplished what they're asking, whether it's industry people or other doctors, and that's going to make it even harder. So being an entrepreneur is hard. It's just hard, and and especially at first when you don't know where to turn. And so one of the hacks that I would share is to find a team, find people that have done it, that have been there, and ask for help. Early on in my career, I was, I wouldn't ask for help as much. I would try to figure it out on my own, and it took a little bit longer. And when I started to associate myself with the right people, it was tremendous how we can all open up doors for each other. And I love to pay that forward. So if you do find us on Instagram or you go on our website and you ask for any type of help, or you want to meet someone, or sometimes young dentists or even established dentists will say, hey, I want to shadow one of your clients, and I want to see how an automated practice works. We'll set that up, and it's the ultimate entrepreneurial hack, because you can get from point A to point T or to point D really quickly, depending on where you want to go. You don't have to necessarily go in that specific order of learning everything, because we can open up these doors for you. So just know that being an entrepreneur is hard. You're going to have your days, and asking for help is something that is never been easier. It's all at our fingertips, but for some reason, young entrepreneurs sometimes are scared to, or think they have to know everything. And I would share that you should reach out. It's never been easier on Instagram to leave someone a DM and say, hey, I was wondering if I could pick your mind on this or that. And I'll often get those messages. Yesterday I got 4 of them, and I responded to all 4, because to me that gift of giving back and to ultimately help people save time, right? Which is to me the ultimate currency. Time is the one resource that we can't make more of. So if I can take an entrepreneur, established or young, offer them some insight, offer them some help, and have them go from point A to point T in a much quicker and efficient fashion and save time, that's going to be the ultimate. So oftentimes I'll speak to a doc and they'll tell me how busy they were. I was so busy today. And immediately when I hear that, my mind goes, were you busy or were you productive?
Mm-hmm.
Were you busy or were you productive? Because they're two very, very different things.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. Everything really is connected. You share the example of the sliding into the DM and being able to connect with somebody. I mean, I just in the last couple of months, like it's been amazing to me of, people that I follow, people that I've been learning from, and, I guess taking a chance, right, to message them after the thousands of messages that they may get on a daily basis, then only for them in almost every case to respond back. Right. And I think that the more that you do that and the more that they respond back, like you mentioned, you realize everything is connected, and these walls that have come down because of technology really can help us move forward. So, thanks for sharing that. You mentioned outside the box, and I know that you and your team have created some of these like outside the box events. And so I'd love to have you share as we wrap kind of maybe where your next one is and some of the different cities that you're actually going to putting these events on.
Yeah, our next one is in Chicago. We just had one in LA. Our next one's in Chicago right before the midwinter. So if you go on our Instagram, you can see that. I believe it's February 22nd. But I think we might have one on the 21st as well. And then after Chicago, we're going to be in Miami. And these are events that you could see on our Instagram. We invite doctors to come out. We have a lot of dentists come out. We have a lot of plastic surgeons attend. A lot of elective healthcare doctors show up, and they really are designed to show you in one evening what is possible when we start to think outside the box. What can actually happen when we develop practices that work for the doctor, not a practice for the doctor to work in. They're from the feedback that we get, they're life-changing events for these doctors. They're game changing. And it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal, the energy that happens. They're about 2 hours long. And then we do a little Q&A, but we share the whole thing. We share the last 20 years, 12,000 practices. We go over real life examples. We show you how to empower your team, and we show you how a practice can work for you. So we just finished one in LA. It was completely sold out. Our next one is in Chicago. And if you look at our Instagram, we'll post those dates. We'll show you how to secure your ticket to that event. And then we have one coming up in Miami. We do them all over the country. They sell out. They're really going from ordinary to extraordinary, how to think outside the box, how to create a practice that works for you. And the feedback has been tremendous. So highly recommend, if you're listening to this and you want to come see what's actually possible, you join one of our outside the box events.
Awesome. And I have a challenge, right, for everybody that's listening, is that like, if you remember what Paul said about going to LA and actually being able to prepay his bill for his meal with his family, can you find a place in Chicago and Miami that can do the same thing, in an effort to, stay connected or like you mentioned, create that easy experience. Well, Paul, thanks so much. I really, really appreciate it. This has been awesome. Like I mentioned, at the beginning, I, have watched, from afar via a lot of the things that you guys have done on social media. And it just became more connected to me, the work that you were doing, as I was learning more of some people in the industry that I've known that are now a part of your team. And so I really wanted to spend some time with you and have you share with everybody a little bit about your story. I think more importantly, like how, this digital world that we're living in, it can still be humanized, and you definitely have done a great job with that. So thanks so much for your time. I really, really appreciate it.
You're welcome, John. Thank you for having me on.
All right. Thanks, everybody.